Hi everyone, welcome back to Architecture 5610. This is Tyler Young, and in this video I'm going to show you isometric views in Rhino. To get started here, all you have to do is click the drop down from the perspective view. You could also use top view, but I always recommend trying to stick to one of these two and not shuffling these because things get kind of confusing pretty quickly. So you just do the drop down and you go to set view, and then you go to isometric, and you can pick between northeast, northwest, southeast, and southwest. So I'm just going to pick southwest for right now. And because this is the only visible object here in my isometric view, it's kind of zoomed straight to this. I can use the scroll wheel and zoom in and out. I can also, if I've got a lot of things in this model, I can select the thing that I want to look at and type ZSA, which is zoom selected area, and hit enter, and it'll take me there and just get that centered in my screen. What you could also do in the view properties is click this locked checkbox here, and now I can't scroll in or out, I can't orbit, I can't even pan. You will need to unselect that or uncheck that box to change to the perspective view. But if you're worried about messing this view up on accident, that's how you do it. Or that's how you prevent it, rather. But so you do just want to be aware of, you don't want to orbit in the parallel view, because then, or as long as you're trying to make an isometric drawing, you don't want to orbit in the parallel view, because that is how you can just ruin the isometric drawing that you're trying to create, because we're focused on the angle in the corner. And so Rhino's default is going to be that 30-degree on each side format. So if I select this model and then I type in make 2D, it'll give me this prompt. And this is really great to pay attention to, because in this view, it asks me, what view are you trying to make this view from? So parallel, that's correct. Projection from the view, from the C-plane, third angle projection, first angle projection. Just go with view. That's why we're in this view. And object properties. So it says input or from input objects, by output layers, or maintain source layers. So maintain source layers could be really nice if you have a very well curated 3D model where all the things that are interior are labeled as such, and all of the things that are exterior are labeled as such. However, where it gets a little tricky is that you do have things overlapping. Like, say I have this kind of trim piece on a parapet at the back of my house here, and that will eventually run behind the roof. So you could go just from input objects and not do the maintain source layers, and that way you'll get more of a hidden or non-hidden format. So I'll just go with what I have here, and you can see what I end up with. But I like to have the scene silhouette turned on, and it's nice to get the viewport rectangle sometimes, especially with an isometric view, because then you can check and make sure that it is isometric. So I'm just going to hit OK, and you'll see that now if I go over to top view and I zoom out, I can scroll back in, and it will have just taken that whole viewport along with that view rectangle and placed that at the origin of the C-plane here, which is also why you want to make sure that nothing is near your C-plane when you're doing this. Otherwise, you'll have potentially a bunch of line work intersecting your make 2D, and it would get very confusing. So if we zoom in here, you'll see that this solid line transitions to a dashed line as it goes behind my roof. And if you go to layers, you can see that I've now got, and I'll just collapse this for clarity, I've got a make 2D layer. And if I do select objects, you'll see everything, well, I guess not that, but if I do this, select objects, you'll see everything beneath this make 2D is all the stuff generated by the make 2D command. So that's that's pretty much it. All you'd have to do is open this up in Illustrator and use these hidden or the viewport rectangle and the scene silhouette curves to change line weights. You'd just be able to edit those by layer, as you'll see in the tutorial. So now to show you how this differs from generating a different type of view, an oblique view is kind of a manual view type. So I'm just going to go to the perspective view just for ease of looking around, and I'll type in show. And while I'm at it, I'm going to hide this Make 2D here, which of course we would just export that to Illustrator. So to end up with a plan oblique like this one here, it's a little confusing how you'd get to that, because you can't get to that from the isometric or parallel views or viewports that are built into Rhino, but you can get there in a more manual way. So all you have to do is select your building and follow these few steps. And you can use different angles here. If you refer back to these graphics here, there is an orthogonal format for a plan oblique where you don't rotate it. But I'll show the rotated one for right now. Once you kind of get the hang of this, you'll realize that it's all very straightforward. So I'm just going to move a copy, and I'm going to rotate the whole building using the gumball by 30 degrees. And then I'll just make another copy for the sake of it. And I'm actually going to move this one farther forward, and that's because I have to go to the right view to do this correctly. So you need to use the shear command, and I'm going to go with a 45 degree angle. Again, you could do different ones. You could refer to this and kind of compare. But if you want the half height, where the vertical lines are half the length of the horizontal ones, you'll need to use a 45 degree angle. So I'm going to type in shear, and what it wants is an origin point. So I'm going to go to the right view, and I'm going to zoom in really far on this, and I'm going to pick the most forward, most left point from this right view. If you were in left view, you'd have to pick the lowest and farthest right point. So I'm going to pick the low left point here, and I'm just going to click anywhere right there. And then I'm going to type in minus 45 and hit enter. And now you'll see that this is just a regular old Rhino command. You could use this to modify any object. It's not specific to creating types of views. So if we look at this in perspective, you'll see it is now this tilted building. So if I go to top view, now it reads very similarly to this. So we've got kind of a one side biased over the other, or do we have a 45-45? So the way to check is to draw a line, and then use the dim angle command, which is really easy and convenient, and we'll just place this here. So that's 30 degrees. And if we do another line going the opposite direction, we'll see that this should be 60 degrees. So dim angle, and that's 60 degrees. So it's this one, but it's just kind of facing the opposite direction. So yeah, so that's it. All you'd have to do to create one of the other ones is change the angle of the rotation here. So if I did 45, or if I did 60 degrees or 30 degrees and just went the other way, you could end up changing which one of these you end up with. 0 would be the orthogonal. But yeah, so that's it for this tutorial. That was the Make 2D command. the oblique drawing type and the isometric drawing types. So, all right, see you guys.